G'day everyone, Spud here from Spud's Games. Welcome back. Tonight I am going to do a quick video on good RGB Scart cables versus bad RGB Scart cables because I've got the perfect example that I come across tonight. Let's go. So the scenario was I had my Scart switch, my new Hydra 2.2, one of the outputs going to my CRT so I could play some games looking at the CRT, and then the second output going to an OSSC into a 4K capture card. Now everything was working great, except when I come over to start recording in OBS Studio, I noticed that there was some weird sort of wavy lines on certain screens on the Street Fighter game. So straight away I went into panic mode. I thought, okay, could it be my new Hydra 2.2 switch? Could it be the OSSC? Could it be the capture card? And all different scenarios were starting to go through my head. Filters, all sorts of stuff. I'm thinking, how am I going to fix this problem? I even tried recording a video to see if maybe recording it didn't capture it, but unfortunately it did. Now, some people might just ignore it and think, you know what, it's just part and parcel of the joys of trying to capture old video games. But I wasn't happy with that, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to get to the bottom of this and find out what might be causing this problem. So luckily for me today, as a matter of fact, I had some cables from Retro RGB UK. I think these are Retro Cables UK. Come in. I ordered a Super Nintendo one, a new Dreamcast one, and a new just a standard SCART switch. And when I pulled them out of the box, I did realize straight away, especially on the standard SCART cable, the quality of this was fantastic. It was really thick, really rigid, and you could tell that they'd spent some time building this cable. So one of the reasons why a good cable is so critical, especially for upscalers, is when you're dealing with 240p on a CRT, it's a fairly low resolution. CRTs are pretty robust. So you don't pick up that minute interference that you might get on some cheaper cables. However, when you're upscaling that and your image goes from 240p to 480p or 720p, etc., those problems that you might get in the cable, that interference, they essentially multiply, and it becomes much more prominent when it's upscaled. So let's go ahead and have a look at the two cables side by side. We'll look at the good one from Retro Cables UK versus the cheap one, which I think from all memory I got off eBay. So here we are. We've got both cables side by side, pulled apart one end, just to take a quick look at them. So on the left here, on this side here, we've got the cheaper cable, and on this side we've got the Retro Cables UK version of the same SCART sort of cable. Now straight away you'll notice the thickness of the cables themselves. So this one here is much thinner compared to this one, the high quality one. This is the cheaper one, this is the high quality one. This cable is much more, I suppose, stiff and rigid than what this cable is. This one you could tie in knots, so it's a lot more flexible. And that probably comes down to the size of the actual cables itself in the connections or in the connector head itself. So you can see those are quite small wires. You can see there that the cable is actually shielded, so that's a good sign. But the wires themselves are very, very small. And you'll see the grounds and whatnot, they're just sort of hanging there with a bit of insulation over them. All in all, I wouldn't say it's a bad job. I certainly wouldn't say it's a really, really high quality job. I definitely have seen worse than this before. But when you compare that to this one, you can see the cable's much, much thicker. The grounding cables, or the cables, are insulated all the way down to the connection. They've gone to the trouble of hot gluing all the connections as well to try and minimize risk of the cables breaking off from the connection and strain relief. Everything is heat shrunk, and everything is well constructed. So straight away from the build quality, you can tell that this cable here should outperform this cable in any sort of circumstances. So now we'll just take a look at the image quality between the good cable and the not so good cable. Okay, so this is the bad cable that I've got plugged in now, or the not so high quality cable, and you'll see the issue there. You can see Capcom just flickering. I'll just skip this screen because the next screen brings it up really bad. So you can see there that shimmering effect there. That's what had me really concerned. I'll just jump into a game. You can see it really bad on that screen and super bad on that screen. So That's what was concerning me when I first plugged it in. I thought, oh, what's going on here? I'll just jump into a game and have a quick look. It's not really going to change that much. You can see how bad it is there. So, yeah, it's I probably don't need to go any further. That was the problem I had. Righto, now we've got the good cable plugged in. We'll have a look at the difference. You can see the Capcom there wasn't shimmering at all. Go to the main screen there, no shimmering on that whatsoever. Jump into a game. We saw that screen before, really bad shimmering. So there's none of that. And we'll wait for it to load up. Actually, we'll say even on this cable, the colors seem a little bit better as well. A little bit more, I suppose, not as bright's probably the wrong word. Not as saturated would be probably the better word for it. You can see the screen there is nice and still. That screen there, no shimmering whatsoever. So I don't need to go any further than that, just to give you guys a good example of what I'm talking about. Now, I haven't touched anything else, except all I've done is just change the cable. So next up, you're probably going to ask, how do I tell where do I get a good cable as opposed to a bad cable? Now, for starters, I'd suggest to stay clear of eBay, especially the ones from China. They're not good quality. They'll show a picture, but they won't last long, and from experience, it's just not worth the hassle. I always get my video game cables from Retro Gaming Cables UK. I've always got them from there. I've had no issues with those cables. They've always been really good build quality, and cables I bought 10 years ago, or probably not 10 years ago, maybe 5-7 years ago, I'm still using today. There are other companies out there that do these sorts of cables as well. Just do a bit of research. You know, if they start describing how it's been manufactured and all the effort they went to manufacture and the research they've done, then good chances are you're going to have a good cable. But, you know, if you're looking at an eBay listing where it says one SCART cable, $5 for videos, then, you know, chances are it's not going to be very good. Like most things as well, cost will be a factor. The more expensive generally, the better quality they will be. The cheaper ones, they're just really crap, and I wouldn't even bother with them. So, you know, anything from sort of $30 to $50, you would find that would be a good quality SCART cable. So that's it from me, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and until the next one, I'll see you then.